You're listening to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype, we got Josh.
Hey.
I'm just going to start off with the utterly atrocious storyline from NXT this week. It's picking up where we put down last week. You know, we thought that something possible could happen here with Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez, and they lasted one whole week.
Yeah, you know what? I don't mind it as much. I think it was the timing is a little weird, but it does make a lot of sense when you think of it.
No,
We've been building Cora Jade up for a year. She's been the next big thing, or so we thought, in NXT. Then suddenly comes Roxanne Perez and seemingly has passed Cora Jade before Cora ever gets the chance to actually succeed. Her being jealous of Roxanne makes total sense.
Nope. Refuse. Unless you're going to tell me here that this is going to lead to Cora Jade getting a shot and possibly winning the NXT Women's Championship, then maybe I'm here.
It's entirely possible.
I'll take it that sounded a whole lot like a yes.
I do think that maybe they did this maybe to see what other dimensions they can give for Cora Jade's character. Because she is so young, it is interesting seeing where they can go with it. But yeah, it completely makes sense from the standpoint of just her being jealous of Perez potentially winning the title before she did.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was obviously 1 week after them winning the tag titles, making the tag titles even worth even less.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe it all comes down to just trying to come up with this plan of Mandy Rose and taking the title off her and moving on from Toxic Attraction. But it seems as though this perfectly could have been executed, a month or 2 months or 3 months down the line. We give Roxanne Perez the opportunity then, and then, exact same storyline, just copy paste it later on down the calendar. It does just feel like the timing is completely off on what we're trying to do here. What are we going to do with the belts now? Are we just going to hand them on back to Toxic Attraction? Are they going to defend them, etc.? And it just...
I would do the make two people who don't like each other work together for the sake of the titles, just to drag it out a little bit. I would have them successfully retain against Toxic Attraction, against all odds, against even them working against each other. So maybe as the builds more sympathy towards Roxanne, and maybe having Cora walk out on Roxanne, but Roxanne still manages to win a 2-on-1, essentially.
Yeah, I could definitely be down for that.
You could do that for a few weeks.
It's got a limit on it though, right? Like, we can't be doing that for months.
No. Obviously, I do think the titles do drop them within a month. But I think it would be something that you could still build towards their overall storyline while still using the titles in a major way. And then you could pass them on to the next team, whoever that is.
So what'll probably happen is we'll just forget about the titles, feud for a little bit, and then just sort of drop them. This would be a great time if you wanted to unify the titles, to do that. That
would require them to actually use the main titles.
Well, just keep only this one. Bring down every team that the main roster has, all one of them, and just have them compete with the NXT Women's Tag Teams. Done. Sarcasm aside, I've had my rant about NXT and the Cora Jade Roxanne Perez storyline. So instead, let's jump over into the main roster. We were talking about what they were going to do with Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus. They were meant to have their match to determine who was going to face the champion at Clash at the Castle. Ultimately, what they're going to do is delay it, presumably. Drew McIntyre went against Butch instead because Sheamus felt a little bit of a cold.
I suspect that actual match will happen at SummerSlam. It is sad for our good friend Bush, because he got absolutely destroyed by Drew McIntyre, who apparently now can summon fire.
Yeah, it's, if it's hard to think about alternate worlds, right? But Butch was on, pretty decent trajectory. He's still obviously involved in these main event storylines with Drew and stuff, but he's not getting a lot of mat time to actually showcase his wrestling skills, I guess, which is like his strongest suit.
Yeah, I can understand that though, because I think they are trying to pull some character work out of him. Like it or not, if you're going to make it on the main roster, you have to have some sort of.
Yeah, it just seems like they're really pushing him towards character work, almost to the detriment of his ring time. Like you see here, obviously, with versus Drew McIntyre, minutes, not really much of a shot. Obviously, Drew McIntyre is a former champion, but still would have hoped he could have put up a little bit more. But it seems as though the thread across everything Raw and SmackDown is just constantly building towards SummerSlam. Like, we could pick any match or any segment or anything that happened, and it is building towards something at SummerSlam. Like, as we said, this one, Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus, that's probably happening at SummerSlam as a number one contenders match. If I was to pick another random one in here, we got Shinsuke Nakamura taking on Ludwig Kaiser, setting up the Gunther Nakamura match for the Intercontinental Championship at SummerSlam.
Well, that makes sense with SummerSlam being just... you obviously have to start with it being this close. You have to feed along to. We're getting a few rematches with the tag team titles and the United States title, but this time we will likely get a Intercontinental Championship match. We will have the World Champion actually be represented for the first time in like 4 months.
Yeah, it's been a while. I know he faced Riddle on SmackDown.
Yeah, but I mean on a pay-per-view.
On pay-per-view? Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been WrestleMania. So, yeah, it's been a while. But yeah, we have to get to where we're going. I feel like, as you said, Gunther versus Nakamura is definitely, I think, going to happen at Summer. I think maybe another match that might happen that's being kind of teased and stuff, I think will be a Rey Mysterio Finn Balor match. With possibly the moment we've been waiting for 2.5 years to might actually happen.
Custody of Dominic on a pole match.
No, you got to put him on a forklift.
That's true.
You're not Vince Russo unless you put someone on a forklift.
All right, Dominic on a forklift.
Honestly, yep. I think that this may be where, because they are trying heavily to bring Dominic into Judgment Day. So they succeed in breaking Dominic away from Rey, or that's when we see the return of the mysterious vigilante that is obviously Edge.
Yeah, those promos have been one of the most obvious things in history.
Though people still want to say it's the Fiend.
Nah, the guy who went away for like 2 weeks, getting vignettes featuring literally all of his past rivals, people who the Fiend never got near.
Yeah, like Eddie Guerrero, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what sort of combination we're going to see at SummerSlam, but it does seem like Judgment Day and Mysterios are going to collide. Judgment Day is down to just the two now, Finn Balor and Damian Priest, with Rhea off with her injury, and Edge being kicked out of the group. It does leave them a little thin, for what was meant to be a stable or a group. I do think that Dominic needs something. If he's tagging with his dad, he's just always going to be his dad's tag team partner. He's not going to break out of that mold. And so I would be definitely interested in seeing him go over to the spooky, scary cult. But something's got to give And I think we've
Yeah,
been saying it for a while.
Yeah, something's definitely got to give. For a long time, I was like, Dominic Mysterio and Theory could be the next Cena Orton. They're both really young guys, really talented. They could be the next top guys, but Theory is 3 times beyond where Dominic is.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it has to do with just, I don't know what it is, but Dominic has just been stuck with Ray. And they haven't really developed him in any way outside of that.
Yeah, like if you were to ask me where Dominic is in the exact same place he was a couple months after his debut. Like, he had that initial rise, that initial shoot up, and then straight into the tag team with his dad, and he just has not moved since. He has been in a holding pattern. We haven't seen anything super amazing. Obviously, we saw the tag team title run, but even that's not like a crazy moment. It was a bit of a bit, and then we move on from it. We just need to see something more out of Dominic here. Or for Ray to let go, if the rumors are true. Whatever needs to happen. I don't care if we get Rey Mysterio versus Dominic Mysterio as a feud or as a match. We just need to break Dominic away and give him something to work with here.
Yeah, you'll never know what he has unless.
And let's talk about the main event of Raw, because that'll lead nicely into our entrance theme. I'm going to try and get through it here. It was Bobby Lashley and Riddle versus Seth Rollins and Theory. It seemed as though, those are our 2 matches. Seth Rollins versus Riddle and Theory versus Bobby Lashley. We shove them in a tag team match. All of a sudden, Dolph Ziggler shows up in a suit and just sort of sits at ringside. And then eventually, he comes out and he messes with the match and beats up on Theory. And that just leaves Theory with so many more feuds. He's got Mr. Money in the Bank. He's got Ziggler coming after him. He's got Lashley coming after him. He's got John Cena in the wings. Everybody hates Theory.
Yeah, and a lot of people were like, well, this is obviously a way to further elevate Theory. I disagree with that. Theory's already elevated. I mean, for let's sake, he worked with Vince McMahon and Austin and Pat McAfee at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And now he's the Mr. Money in the Bank. This, I think, is more about Ziggler and establishing the fact that when you put anybody against Theory, it makes them a face instantly. Almost the same way as when you face off against The Miz, with the exception of one guy that we'll get to later.
Or we could just never get to him.
But, yeah, I mean, it's like, I think it was more about bringing Ziggler back on the main roster after his run with the NXT Championship as a good guy. And I think it's to show that Theory is so hated by the fans that he can make somebody who the fans hated be cheered for.
Yeah, it does, because obviously we've talked about everything leading to something for SummerSlam, and we already think that SummerSlam match is Lashley versus Theory in a rematch for the US title, where Lashley probably doesn't pick up the win. Theory probably doesn't pick up the title again. Where is Ziggler going to factor into this? Are we heading to a triple threat? Are we heading to Ziggler just sort of messing with Theory and he's actually the next feud after Lashley clears him out? What is Ziggler's little puzzle piece, or where's he going to fit?
I don't know. Maybe it's an element to prevent the cash in after the Last Man Standing match. Is that Theory starts to come out and then Ziggler prevents him. And then that leads to a match at Clash of the Castle. And we just have a few matches here and there off of that as we're getting towards where Theory is capable of cashing.
Yeah. I could also definitely see Theory and Ziggler doing the classic match for the briefcase. Obviously, I'd have Theory retain it, but I could see that happening, as we've had with Otis and Miz before, and I'm blanking on the other one. I think it was Edge picked it up.
Yeah, Edge and Miz. Although Dolph Ziggler was involved in one of those matches.
Yeah.
Top matches. He did retain his, though, against John Cena.
I always love seeing a little bit of that, where if the Money in the Bank briefcase holder is taking the risk and holding on to it longer and longer, factoring into storylines and it becoming something to be defended because other people want it, basically. So I'd be interested in Theory versus Dolph Ziggler for the briefcase, but we'll have to wait and see. We have run quite over halfway, but it is fine. We can play this song wherever we want in the show. But it is going to be Dolph Ziggler's theme to recognize his re-emergence on Raw, his return to the main roster, and that song is playing for you right about now. And you're back with Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. I'm Grady, he's Josh. We still got a fair chunk of stuff. We can't get away without talking about the fact that Brock Lesnar returned to Raw and kind of just beat the ever-loving HE double hockey sticks out of the Alpha Academy.
Yeah, and that was after Theory had a nice little exchange with the Beast and Paul Heyman. I do think it was definitely, I think, the further make it look like Theory belongs against somebody again like Brock, and then of course you have the visual of the Beast incarnate F5ing Otis through a announce table.
Yeah, just in case you needed any sort of reminder that Brock Lesnar is a beast, right? They're like, here it is.
He picked up Otis like he was Chad Gable, and just ordered that car door he once ripped off a hinge and threw in the crowd.
Yeah, Otis didn't go flying and injuring a crowd member, though. But I'm sure if Brock wanted him to, he could have.
Yeah. Although this Brock, I think, is more reserved than that Brock was. That was right after he returned to the WWE.
Yeah. And I just want to give props to Alpha Academy, because these guys continue to be great in whatever they're in. We might not see them near the tag team titles for a little while, their spot might have been getting beaten up by Brock Lesnar, but they looked good doing it. They're still very entertaining duo. Trying to skim, looking here, we've got about 8 minutes left. I guess the Viking Raiders also a bit of a talking point here. They had a bit of a stint on NXT. They came back to the main roster, and they seem to have come back with a vengeance. They're taking out the New Day twice now. They're taking out Mahal and Shanky. They're just laying out the SmackDown Tag Team division.
Yeah, they're definitely making their presence felt. And they will definitely on the short list of contenders for whoever is the tag team champion once the Usos drop them. If that ends up being the Street Profits, it's obviously too long before Street Profits for the Viking Raiders. Although I would think with the Usos play, but it's definitely something they're trying to build with them. And it was a funny moment to see Xavier Woods offering up tickets for a certain activity, and they were immediately cashed in.
Yeah, it feels like if you're looking at the tag teams on the main roster right now, obviously your number one is the Usos, your number two is the Street Profits, just because they are those contenders at the moment, but the Viking Raiders have securely placed themselves in that number 3 spot. It is seemingly just a matter of time until they get, as you say, whoever the champions is into their sights. But for now, it seems like the New Day is the ones that they're going to be taking around. I could see that being a SummerSlam filler match, Viking Raiders versus the New Day. Big E is still a little while away, and Mahal and Shanky are kind of not doing a whole lot here, so I think they're just a bit of a tool to move along the feud. Like, we already had the Bruising Brutes versus the New Day. This is just sort of the New Day's next feud here.
Yeah, definitely. I don't really know what the plan is with them, honestly. They go from 1 week going fighting each other to trying to get along and then getting destroyed by the Viking Raiders and getting destroyed by them again. I don't know. I think that at this point they're just fodder for the tag team division.
It really does feel like that. It does feel like Mahal and Shanky are just fodder. which is, I guess, similar to the Usos' opponents earlier on SmackDown with Los Lotharios. I'm going to completely butcher that pronunciation. Angel and Humberto, because they also just sort of taken losses one after another. Their last big showing was kind of taking on Ricochet for the Intercontinental title a couple months back. There's a big divide when it comes to main roster tag teams between those who are credible threats and credible challengers and then fodder. And there's very few, I guess, that I'd put into that credible section outside of the three we talked about and probably the New Day.
Which the New Day, no matter what they're doing, they're always going to be a threat for the tag team.
Yeah. They have permanent status on that threat list.
Because they're arguably the 1A when it comes to the greatest tag teams of the last decade.
Yeah.
With obviously the other one being the Usos.
Yeah. They will forever be up there when we talk about main roster tag teams. But if we're talking about main roster tag teams, Maximum Male Models, they haven't done a whole lot other than showing off some fashion. You think these guys got a chance to get up to that credible section, or you think they're gonna float around maybe in the fodder section?
Who knows? I do want to say I want to give them a chance. If for no other reason, it's just 2 more bodies in a tag team division.
Yeah.
But I don't want to. I want to see where they go here with this whole Maxim model thing. Before I judge it.
It's hard to see because obviously, what did they name him to? Max Dupree, great wrestler, but also can do great on the mouthpiece as a manager. You know, we talk about how people need managers and they're really cool and they should be focused on a bit more. I can definitely see this, and I'm not pronouncing their names in the fancy way, I'm reverting, for Mason Mansour to be able to get out and to do something in that tag team division with Max Dupree by their side. It's just a question of, is it too much of a comedy gig to take far in this division? Like, could you see Mason Mansour defeating the Usos, for example, or defeating the Viking Raiders? And as much
not,
as
but I also want to point out that was a lot of same things that were said about the New Day.
It's true. And they turned chicken poop into chicken salad. I do think Maximum Male Models is probably a textbook wait and see. We don't know where they're going. They've only been around for a couple weeks. We haven't even seen them in the ring yet. What are they going to bring? Time to find out. And then I guess just to finish up, back on NXT, our favorite storyline that we've been covering for quite a while. We've got a few minutes left. Tony D'Angelo's crew and Legado del Fantasma seemingly still trying to get Cruz and Joaquin to join them after they beat up Idris and Malik, and then convince Legado del Fantasma to also beat them up as they're after the match. Do you think that we're going to get it? Do you think we're going to get those two joining?
I do. I just think it's a kind of installing point right now due to the lack of Santos Escobar. But I do think it's the further the overall angle of the Descending Angel. I just have to wait and see. The biggest piece of the puzzle is missing.
I could definitely see some sort of match, not putting people in a shark cage or anything, because that would be silly, between Tony D'Angelo and Escobar, as you said, with, if Escobar wins, then Legado del Fantasma released from the family kind of thing, and then have Legado flip there to be like, no, we want to stay in the family and cost him the match. I could see that being some sort of end game for this, but I'm sure there's a number of different ways that this feud can come to an end. Alrighty, well, we've only got a little bit left. Is there anything else that we have not talked about across Raw, SmackDown, NXT, or anything else that you want to mention in the next 30 seconds?
We we got further on the storyline with our brand new JD and Cameron Grimes.
Yeah. Looks like they're going to have to go through each other before they end up in a NXT Championship match.
Cameron Grimes showing his frustrated kind of failures at the loss to Braun Breaker. I think we may be seeing our boy.
Oh no. Oh no. Well, we'll have to find out next week because those 30 seconds are up. That's all we've got time for this week. It's been great talking to you.
Bye, B.
You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/wrestling R&D up, or our Twitter page, twitter.com/wrestling R&D up, or our YouTube page, youtube.com/wrestling RND up. And we will see you next week.